So while tensions between the United States and Canada have relaxed, the same cannot be said about the relations between Canada and China. For more on this, we have Chris Alexander joining us. He is a former Canadian diplomat. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, tensions between both the nations have been escalating on the diplomatic front as well as trade. But yesterday, after the formally charging two Canadians on espionage, how is the relationship between China and Canada a day later?
Well, I think it's going from low to new low regularly over the past several months. The Chinese have really chosen the wrong strategy by trying to force Canada to interfere in the Meng case in Vancouver, to do something that no government in this Canada can do, especially not in the circumstances we face today, where our federal government is under additional scrutiny with regard to its commitment to the rule of law. So this miscalculation and escalation by China is painting a new picture for Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
We've been used to economic integration, we've been used to getting closer, but with Canadians now facing arrest on absolutely arbitrary, trumped-up charges, the relationship's in uncharted territory.
Right. You know, what's also worrying is, Chris, not one, but now we're talking about potentially 4 Canadians who could be on death row. 2, of course, where the drug cases against them are concerned, and Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, where other espionage charges are concerned. So the case is really different as of today. How do you see Canada reacting to this in the coming days?
Well, Canada is going to have to get very serious about the protection of its citizens, to do consular work on the ground in China that goes beyond what we've had to do almost anywhere else in the world recently. We're also going to have to think about working with our allies to recalibrate the approach that we've all been taking as partners of China. The United States is in a very different space with bipartisan support for a new departure in its trade relations with China. Canada needs to think about how it joins this changing international consensus to make sure that we're sending the right messages back to Canada. Standing pat and doing nothing is not an option. We need to find leverage. We need to show that we mean business, and we need to protect our citizens.
But Chris, please explain, how does this go ahead when we don't even have a permanent ambassador to China? It's been months now. So how do we move this case forward?
Well, we have a first-rate chargé d'affaires on the ground, someone I know personally, joined the Canadian Foreign Service with me. So I think the professionalism and the hard work is happening there on the ground. What we need is political commitment, preferably bipartisan commitment from all parties in Ottawa, to take a more serious approach, to be tougher, and to show that we're not going to get walked all over on this, and we're going to stand up for our fellow Canadians and stand up for the rule of law.
Right, Chris, now I have to also ask you about the Meng case here. We've been seeing that when something happens with the case here, a reaction comes in from China. So if we're talking about 2 Canadians there now who've been formally charged, what do you see happening with the Meng case here in Canada?
I see the Meng case taking its course in our courts under the extradition treaty and the other legal obligations that we have. It's going to take time, given the appeals that have been launched. These cases always take time to receive the independent scrutiny that they deserve and merit under our laws. Mm-hmm. But the idea that the Chinese government can arrest people, exert political pressure, and somehow undermine the independent course of the rule of law in this country is absurd to Canadians. And we need to make that point every day.
All right. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Chris Alexander, former diplomat. Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me.